Okay, so today we have chapter 67, chapter 71, and chapter 73. So the first point I want to make about chapter 67 is this. What do Christopher's neighbours think of him? Why is this important? It's very important because the novel is written in a first person point of view. That means Christopher is telling you, the reader, what he thinks, what he feels, what he sees, what he believes. And it's only when he really has interactions with other people that we sort of get an understanding of who he really is. So I want you to answer that question in your books. I want you to be writing down these points. I think it's really important to start to answer questions like this. What do Christopher's neighbours think of him? Another idea in this chapter is this quotation. So page 45. I do not like strangers because I do not like people I have never met before. Now, is this a fair point to make? I mean, if you think about it, there's 7 billion people in the world. So over 99% of the world, most of the people in the world are going to be strangers to you, regardless of if you're Christopher or if you're a student at Auckland Grammar School. And how do you feel when you have to meet strangers? Are you shy or are you very outgoing? Do you like talking to new people? On page 54, we have this idea that most murders are committed by somebody who is known to the victim. And this is a great point because it's a logical reasoning process that Christopher is using to help with this investigation. So I raised the point before that Christopher is a very intelligent young man, and because he is intelligent, it's going to help him try and solve this crime. Chapter 71. Why does Christopher struggle to fit in at school? This is a very relevant question for teenagers. If we think perhaps even at Auckland Grammar School, this might be a problem for some students as well. And there's some hyperbole. All of the other students at my school are stupid. So you might be aware of the fact that Christopher loves maths, he loves physics, he loves studying, and he looks down upon other people. This is perhaps one of Christopher's biggest weaknesses. Even though other people sometimes look down on him, he's quite sanctimonious, he's quite self-righteous, and he's quite arrogant, I would say, in the fact that he is looking down on others too. And perhaps this is what gives the book some sort of legitimacy or some sort of credibility. The fact that Christopher is not a perfect human being. He has flaws like everybody else. He thinks he's much better than other people. In chapter 73, what are some of the examples of Christopher's behavioral problems? I want you to answer this question. Please write it down in your book. It shouldn't be hard for you to answer these questions. But I think you need to understand that Christopher finds it very difficult to control his temper and to control his emotions. And coming back to the previous point that I just raised about him not being perfect, I think that perhaps we all struggle to control our temper from time to time. There's also an idiom on page 60. Christopher, if you do not behave, I swear I shall knock the living daylights out of you. So Christopher's father is threatening his son. And we're going to see more of this later on in this book. And if you were to write an essay in the examination, the relationship between Christopher's father and Christopher is one of the most important relationships in the entire book. Most of the examination questions ask a question about relationships, or they ask a question about conflict. So I think it's quite helpful that as you read through the book, you start thinking about relationships, you start thinking about conflict, because that's really going to help you write an essay. For the Term 1 examination, you're going to try and write a 500-word essay on this novel. So we're in week 6 now already, and we have 12 weeks of this term. So it's very useful for you to think about conflict or relationships. I'd already given the class previously part of a sample essay from the conflict between Christopher and the policeman. So I hope that was helpful, and I'll help later on by giving you some ways to structure an essay about Christopher and his father. Thank you very much.